Welcome to episode 19 of Dark Academia Queen. Today we are going to be talking about cottagecore. What is cottagecore? Well, before I get into all of what cottagecore is, please hit that like button, ring that bell for notifications. Also, please hit that subscribe button. Now, can we think of the artist right now who literally represents cottagecore, especially with her folklore album? That's right, Taylor Swift. But you guys know I'm a big Swifties at heart, so I don't think it's no need to hide that. But what is cottagecore? Well, it's an internet aesthetic idolizing rural life. It was originally based in rural European, and it was developed throughout the 2010s. First named cottagecore, owned Tumblr in 2018, and the aesthetic centers on tradition, rural clothing, interior design, and crafts such as drawing, baking, and pottery, and is related to aesthetic movements such as grandmacore, goblincore, gnomecore, and fairycore. Now, I personally love the whole cottagecore aesthetic and everything. But I don't think I could be like a trad wife. I really don't. That's my thing. But some sources describe cottagecore as a subculture of millennials and Gen Z. And economic forces and other challenging faces facing these young people may be a significant driver of this trend, along with the generations of emphasis on sustainability and this trend to work from home, especially when the pandemic happened. Lord knows when oh, I don't even remember much of the pandemic. I remember like there was much of murder hornets or something, but then it was like aliens or something. I have no clue. There was a lot going on. Oh, I remember the toilet paper fiasco. But yeah, but what is the elements and aesthetic of cottagecore? Well, the tenets of this can help with the proponents to satisfy desire for aspirational from nostalgia, as well as an escape from many forms of stress and trauma. The New York Times would describe it as a reaction to the hustle culture, an advent of personal branding, and The Guardian called it a visual a lifestyle designed to help fetish with the wholesome purity of the outdoors. Cottagecore emphasizes simplicity and the soft peacefulness in the pastoral life of an escape from the dangers of the modern world. It has also become highly popular on social media. So, what is some of the fashion from this era, from this whole thing? Well, an early inspiration for the cottagecore fashion is the Mori girl, which reached popularity in Japan in the late 2000s. Lolita fashion, also, which is another Japanese street fashion with a soft silhouette of Victorian-inspired look that have been from another inspiration. While homemade clothing is featured on cottagecore, products including the strawberry dress, a 490 tea dress, also associated with the aesthetic. And due to the price of the Matashi dress, a number of people produce their own versions of the product. And cottagecore clothing also includes long layering dresses. Now, analytics companies identified that besides floral prints and old world feminine shapes and details are integral to the aesthetic. Milkmaid necklines, puff sleeves, ruffles, prairie inspired midi dresses. My friend Bethany honestly fits the whole cottagecore in my opinion. Like she loves Renaissance fairs and all of that. To me, she gives a whole cottagecore vibe, honestly. But marketing commentators also noted that the trend fits the already 70s inspired dresses, lace trim, and denim. Um, Complemented for the slow fashion trend, like brands like Bathsheba, Dion, and the Vampire's Wife become popular for the frilly, whimsical, flowy dresses. That is perfectly for the cottagecore aesthetic. So, what is some of the associated with this? Well, self-sufficiency is integral in cottagecore. So, growing like food in one's own garden and baking one's own bread can reflect the philosophy of a self efficiency of the cottagecore throughout the aesthetic in demand living in the countryside. I work with somebody who definitely could fit this as well. And cottagecore gardening is also intended to be environmentally friendly and permacultural farming practices. For example, the cultivation of a variety of perennial and annual native plants help attract insects, including bees, as such as promotes biodiversity and increases pollination of food producing crops. Now, the aesthetic also encourages taking care of oneself physically and mentally. Followers of the cottagecore typically purchase secondhand or vintage furniture. They may take up hobbies including knitting, crochet, painting, and reading. And while cottagecore arose as a named aesthetic in 2018, similar aesthetics and ideals existed prior to this. The ancient Greeks characterized Arcadia as a representative of an idealistic pastoralist setting, and the Greek poet Theocritus often wrote poems about shepherds and shepherd dresses in the 3rd century BC, leading to the help from that is often cited to the inventor of the pastoral poetry. The market for his work was primarily the education of the urban class of Alexandria, seeking the escape of the filth, crowding, and disease of the city. In the 1st century BC, the Roman poet Virgil pastoral poetry was written in response to the violence and the chaos of war. However, he expanded the genre by acknowledging the contemporary morals and political issues, as well as war, whilst maintaining a distance throughout the pastoral trope. And the pastoral escapism continued to produce the courtly audience of the Roman Empire and the formal of the nobles such as the Daphnes and Chloe from the 2nd century AD. The 14th century Italian Renaissance poet Petrarch was known for his hill waking and gardening as well as his pastoral poetry. English playwright Shakespeare wrote 2 pastoral plays, As You Like It and A Winter's Tale, and Christopher Marlowe's renowned poem The Passionate Shepherd to his love-inspired poetic responses written by Walter Raleigh. The ninth reply to the shepherd, in which the speaker observes the Arcadian ideas of facilities. Now, in 18th century Europe, it was fashionable to build follies, ornamental structures, and often build the style architecture to mimic rustic villages. Marie Antoinette's Hamu de la Reine as a rustic model village is a primary example of this. Now, the arts and crafts movement of the 19th century um, was an approach to the art, architectural design, and embraced the folk lifestyle techniques and critique of the industrial production. The counterculture of the 1960s provided perhaps the more significant source of influence for contemporary cottagecore movement. Many of these subcategories of cottagecore directly invoke the aesthetic of environmentally conscious architectural projects and communes in the era, such as Drop City and embody the radically sustainable hands-on ethos of publications such as the Whole Earth Catalog. Thrifted furniture and art pieces from the 60s and 70s often used to create a comforting, cozy interior space as patterns in the era of paisleys and mushroom prints. Now, there are similar aesthetics in different countries, such as Iki or detached elegance from Japan, as well. And then there is Fernois, which is a longing to be somewhere far away and mysterious. That's from Germany. And in Denmark, there is something called Heidi. I think I'm pronouncing that right. If not, I apologize. It is called satisfying comfort. Now, cottagecore is more of an ideal. It creates a warm feeling that when one thinks about how wonderful it would be to live a simpler life, a more bucolic existence, if you may. And you can Thomas Kincaid is a great example of this as well. Now, this movement gained further traction in many spheres of social media in 2020, and networks such as blogging sites had a 150% increase in cottagecore posts for 3 months from March to May 2020, and it spread on Pinterest as well as a platform for sharing ideas. And it also became popular on TikTok. I don't even have TikTok, I just have Reels on Facebook, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. But with numerous cottagecore enthusiasts sharing videos of themselves in rural areas, bathing in the forest, and baking bread. On TikTok now, the LGBTQIA plus community has been particularly fond of the cottagecore, especially lesbians. Many young women have found a sense of femininity through dressing in cottagecore aesthetic while still feeling aligned with the modern and controlled woman archetype. The Yorker asserted that such videos have evoked a mood of calm, enlightened, petrified productivity, and Vox characterized the trend as the aesthetic, where quarantine is romance instead of terrifying. Speaking of this, okay, imagine you're in the Regency era. You're in quarantine. I think Francesca would just love this. She's in Scotland. So she doesn't have to worry about all this, the chaos from our own family. But back to the episode. Um, living in the style of the cottagecore, or simply looking at others doing the same on the internet, was seen as something that people could de-stress. Um, Taylor Swift actually enhanced the popularity of cottagecore in 2020 with her eighth studio album, Folklore. And a New York Times compared cottagecore to social simulation video game series Animal Crossing, being acted out in real life, coinciding with the success of the then newest entry of the franchise Animal Crossing. In July 2020, uh, Folklore was released, and the album used the cottagecore in its visuals and lyrics have been credited to increasing aesthetic's popularity. She continued with the aesthetic with the follow-up Evermore, um, and applied it to her performance on her 63rd annual Grammys. The videos for Cardigan and Willow both incorporate cottagecore imagery. Now, who else have also embraced this? Because I know the whole world is like Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift. But I love Taylor Swift. I am a Swiftie, and I have no shame in admitting it. I was a Swiftie before it was cool to be a Swiftie. But Millie Bobby Brown also has embraced this. Haley Kiyoko, Haley Haley Bieber, and David Beckham have also kind of incorporated this. But in the US, cottagecore has become a decorating trend in the 2020 holiday season. While the sales of needlework knits skyrocketed, according to the Royal Horticultural Society of the UK, cottage gardening is a trend for 2021. And China even has its own version of cottagecore, and even though it is rapidly urbanizing as part of an economic development, many young people have decided to leave their cities after the university studying their hometowns in the countryside. Water quality of life has improved thanks to, among the availability of fast internet, new rails, and high-speed railways, and among the returning youth to cottage core minded architects. But I personally love the cottage core aesthetic. That's just me. I know some people aren't completely into it, but what can I say? I just find it interesting. But that's it for this episode. I will see y'all next time. Y'all have a great day.